Alright, so I had a comment on the last video asking about my trading experience, and I wanted to make this video in response to that, as well as just to speak on my trading experience in general, um, because I've been doing it for a while, and I think I have at least a couple of valuable things I could share to any newer traders or people considering trading, just things that I wish I had known when I started. So that's what this is about. And I'll also share, how much money I've made throughout my trading career, and where I'm at today with it and where I see it going in the future. So first of all, the comment, I'll put it on the screen, but it said, I enjoyed hearing about your trading. Definitely would like to hear more about it, like how you started, if you're using a prop firm, and how you manage risk and profit taking. So that's kind of a loaded question, but I'll circle back to the how I started part. Am I using a prop firm? No. All the trading that I do is purely discretionary. I'm just a retail trader, so I have no professional experience. I mean, to give you a high level overview of what I'm doing every day, because I don't think I got detailed at all in the other video, but I'm primarily shorting small cap pump and dumps. So, you just wait for a historically garbage small cap company to drop a PR and the stock pumps 100+%, and then you wait for it to top, and then you hit a bounce. You short a bounce and you cover the flush. It's really that simple. And so, I mean, you can see, it's quite discretionary, for sure. That is ultimately my strategy. I mean, there's more to it than that, but again, like without really getting into charts, which I feel like is another video. That's essentially what I'm doing every day. So to circle back to how I started, my story at this point is kind of long, and I could really drag it out, but I'm going to try to keep it to the point because I just feel like there's not as much to gain from really getting into the details of my story. But I started at 17. It was when I took an interest in it, at least. And that was just, I was in high school and I was looking for a way to make money, and trading seemed interesting. I liked the idea of just hopping on the computer every day and making a few $100 from your house and not even ever having to leave the house to go to work. Of course, it's not that easy, as you find out, but that was how I started, or at least got interested. I started taking it a little more serious when I turned 18 and could actually have my own brokerage account. Um, and I wanted to, I knew I wanted to day trade, and basically, I wanted to day trade stocks, but I quickly found out PDT rule exists, and which actually they just eliminated it, or at least starting in like June, it's going to be eliminated. But when I started, it was in full effect. So, you PDT rule means you need $25,000 to day trade at least more than like 3 or 4 times a week. So I quickly realized I wasn't going to be able to do that. So in my mind, I went, well, you know, and this is such a faulty way of thinking, but I thought all of this is pattern recognition. Like, I just need a chart and a little bit of money. All of this is just reading charts, reading patterns. So any like market or any security that I could trade, um, I was willing to trade. So I started looking to other markets in other than the stock market that didn't require me to have $25,000. And I ended up initially settling on futures market, trading like the mini Nasdaq and S&P futures. So from 18 to 19, I traded futures and failed. And I was doing this all on my own. I was doing it part time as well. It's important to understand I was working a full time job. Well, probably part time work at that time, but I wasn't full time trading. And technically, I've never been and probably never will be a full time trader. I just don't see that in the cards for me. So I started in futures. I was doing it on my own, and I failed miserably, as you could imagine, for about a year. So from 18 to 19, I did futures and failed. from 19 to 20, I moved over to Forex, tried that. And, you could open futures and Forex accounts with like a few $100. And that's what I was doing. I remember I think the futures account I actually put more into, but the Forex account I literally opened with, I think, $500. And so from 19 to 20, that was what I was trying. Failed miserably at that as well. And then finally, at that point, I contemplated quitting because even though I was doing it part time, I was still putting a lot of effort into it. And I was still, even part time, I was putting a lot of time into it. And I just wasn't seeing any reward. But I decided that I would try because at this point I'd saved up not enough money to trade stocks. I probably had like 20 grand at this point saved up, and I decided that I would try stocks as like my last ditch effort. And I knew a guy that I trusted who had a group that he was a trader. He day traded and he taught people, and it was expensive relative to what I had paid for up to that point, because up to that point I had not paid for anything. But I was like, I was pretty committed to this, and so I decided to give this guy a shot, and I joined this guy's group. I started learning his strategy, and so this was from when I was 19, or no, this was from 20 to 22 years old. For the next 2 years, I traded his strategy, where I learned it, had him mentor me, and it was just 2 years of grinding and slowly getting consistent. And the back half of that 2 years, like the last 8 months of that 2 year period, uh, I spent entirely on a simulated account, a fake account. So I was 4 years into my trading journey and spending 8 months on a simulated account, which is not insane, but you know, when you're doing it, it feels a little ridiculous to have not made any money after 4 years, and like every day you're coming into the market to make fake money. It's not an easy thing to do. So after those 8 months on the sim account, I finally had built up some consistency. I wish I had the data from that old simulated account because I started journaling it. So that was one thing. When I started getting mentored by this guy, I got a trading journal, and even the paper trading, the 8 months that I did on paper, I was uh, journaling it. It took me 8 months, and then finally I built some consistency and switched to my live account, and just from that point forward, I've been profitable since, and that was about 3 years ago. So that's my story up to today, pretty much. So to circle back to what I was what I mentioned earlier, I said I was going to come back to it. One of the things that I've learned that I think is basically like a trap for newer traders is what I did when I realized that I wasn't going to be able to. When you realize you can't meet the PDT requirement, and again, that's getting like removed now, so I guess this doesn't even matter. But I think a lot of newer traders realize they can't trade stocks because of PDT, and they think like me, like it's all charts, it's all pattern recognition, none of it matters. So I'll just go trade where I can. Like where's the low barrier to entry? Uh, because I'll just trade whatever. I'll trade a forex chart. I'll trade a futures chart. And the reality is, and this was like a revelation when my mentor, he had a video on it, so it wasn't like he was explaining it directly to me. But when I watched this video, it was truly like a revelation. So basically, I didn't realize like how important the market that you're trading is. And so, if you think about the competition, and some people would probably disagree with me, to be honest, but If you think about the competition in forex and futures markets, those markets are massive. So like the competition is everybody under the sun. I mean, you've got traders like yourself doing it, but the vast majority of the money flowing through those markets is from like hedge funds and like massive institutions and just large money. People with access to tools that you'll never have access to, and it's just very strong competition. Whereas if you go to small cap stocks, yes, that still exists to some degree, but these stocks have market caps that are so small that like the truly massive institutions can't even trade them because even if they can, it won't be worth it. They can't make money on it at a scale that's worth it to them. So that's something. Basically, the point there being the competition is not nearly as um, I don't know, skilled or like sophisticated in small caps. There's a lot more people like me, or hopefully even less smart than me, that are trading small caps, and that I just didn't understand that starting out. Like I truly just thought it was like, you see a setup, you trade it. It doesn't matter what market it is. But that's one point that I would seriously stress. Like if if my advice would be, if you're gonna consider trading, I would try to trade the stock market. And if you can't succeed trading stocks, I would truly, I mean, it's depressing, but I would truly give up, because the stock market, and really more specifically the small cap stock market, is going to be your best bet. And if you can't succeed there, then the odds of you succeeding in much more difficult competitive markets is just not likely. So that would be my first recommendation. My second recommendation would probably be, you know, looking at my own story. You absolutely have to have a trading journal. Um, I think, I didn't realize the value of a trading journal early on. And I'm not truly sure, because I was so quick to like jump ship on strategies that I was trading early on, like with futures and forex. I don't even think a trading journal really would have saved me, but it could have helped. And furthermore, I think you also absolutely have to have a mentor. Those two combined will take you so far, assuming that you know you have a worthwhile mentor. Like at a bare minimum, you need a mentor, a journal, and a strategy that truly has edge. And it's brutal because when you start, you don't know, especially if you have no connections, um, you really don't know outside of the journal. You can pretty easily say whether a journal's worth is good or not by like social proof. But for the mentor side of things and the strategy, it's just so hard because you don't know, you know, having no experience, you can't like verify like that the guy that you're paying to teach you how to trade knows what he's talking about. Because I mean, to this day, having as many years of experience as I do, I would say probably 95% of the people that sell education in trading don't actually make money from trading. So like, if I that's just if I had to guess. And also I also think the reason, I've always anecdotally seen that the forex market has like the most amount of like gurus and bad actors in terms of education. And I think that ties into the PDT situation that I was talking about, where like naturally there are more, scammers basically in the forex market, because people with no money that want to get in, that are naive but want to get into trading to make money, can't trade stocks, so they look to forex. And it's so easy to open an account with like no money, and so that's what people do, and they go find forex mentors that flash the Lamborghinis and stuff online, and so that's sad. So yeah, it's it's just really difficult. I look back and like there's just so many things that have to go right for you to succeed, and or if they go wrong, you have to relentlessly pursue trading. Like you have to just take it on the chin, which is essentially what I did. I feel like because things didn't go smoothly for me. Um, but if you just never give up, like if you're delusionally persistent, eventually you'll probably break through, at least to some extent. But there's just a lot that has to go right, and I think that's part of why so many people fail. I've always heard the stat that 95% of traders fail and don't make money. I think it's probably more than that. I think it's probably like 99%. But even if you have all those things go right, another thing is just the time commitment. Um, even if you have great education and a really good strategy, and like you have a good mentor that's by your side, it takes a ton of time. Like you need so much screen time to just be able to. I think people really like undervalue screen time. People don't understand. I certainly didn't understand how important it is to just like sit at the screens and watch charts every day. Like there are things to this day that like I can't explain to people, and maybe I'm just I would be a bad teacher, but there are things that I can't explain to people because I don't know. I guess I just suck. But like no, I just know them because I've seen it happen enough times. So I think that's another barrier to success. Like being even if everything else checks out, you have to. It's such a time commitment that most people can't afford. So I guess I would say understand. I mean, look at me. Like and I'll share my stats in a minute, but I didn't succeed financially from this at all for like 4 years. And even now, like now that I have started making money, I haven't made anywhere near enough money to say that it's been like really worth my time. And maybe part of that is my own fault. Like maybe I should be pushing the boundaries of or pushing limits more in terms of size that I trade and the risk that I'm willing to take. But, you know, as it stands today, I can't sit here and say like, oh, this is really paid off for me. I'll share my P&L to this point, which is something that I wouldn't have done probably even like a week ago, but I really just don't. Trading, everyone in the trading space has a crazy ego, which maybe that's just everyone in life, but like I don't know. No one wants to share numbers. Most people won't even share, even like traders I talk to every day won't even share how much money they make on a per trade basis. And it's all relative, and I get that. And like, it's not always super useful to share that stuff. But the more time goes on, like, the less I care. Like, so anyway, I'll put it on the screen without it in front of me, and I haven't looked at it in a minute, but I want to say to date, like over the past 3 years since becoming profitable, I've made, I want to say around $30,000. So, yeah, nowhere, like I said, nowhere near, and that's not even clean. So, really, after commissions, it's significantly less than that. My trade journal used to show commissions. I don't know. I'm canceling my chart log subscription because I don't know what happened. They updated chart log a long time ago, and it just boned all my data, and so I'm bailing on them. But yeah, I no longer have like my net P&L, but yeah, so that makes it even worse. But 30,000 gross is just nowhere near enough to be able to say that it's been like that I've been successful. But technically, I am consistently profitable, and so that's worth something at least. And I think my experience, like I said, I think 99% of traders fail to ever be consistently profitable. Of the 1%, like if okay, let's say I am part of the 1% that's consistently making money, because that is true. I think my story is probably, of the 1%, I probably have a very average story. Like I'm a very average, if not below average, successful trader. Which, frankly, I mean, it's sad, but like that's such an accomplishment in this industry, and like I I think most successful traders would agree with that. Like I don't think many successful traders would push back on that. Like if even if you can be the lower end of the successful, trading group, it's just so difficult that that's still kind of a win. But that's how much, that's where I'm at. Um, that's where I'm at today. And as much as that 30,000, like you look at that and you think, holy cow, like I've been doing this for so long, like years now, and that's all I have to show. However, I do feel like I'm the best that I've ever been. Like I, I'm at, or at least close to my peak in terms of, you know, my ability to trade. I think just how skilled I am as a trader. And I think that your knowledge really does compound in a way that could ultimately make me a good amount of money going forward. Like, there are just certain things that I think I'll be able to better capitalize on, certain situations or trade setups, going forward, that I think, having the experience that I have, I'll be able to capitalize on, and potentially make it worth the time that I've put into it. Like I said earlier, I don't think I'll ever be a full-time trader, because I don't think people realize the scale that you need to be trading at to do that. You have to be trading a lot of volume and a lot of money, and the amount that I would have to trade to do this full time would be way beyond anything I'm comfortable risking. So, and also it's just so cyclical. That's another thing I've learned. Trading is much more cyclical than you realize. When you start, at least when I did, I thought that it was like you come in every day, and once you figure it out, you know, you trade you trade the charts every day, you make however much money you want, and then you log off and you come back the next day and you do it again. That's just not how it works. Like there are times, like this year, for instance, has been terrible. And again, there are things I could point to and say like, well, maybe it's my fault. It for sure is at least partially my fault. But you know, I also wouldn't hesitate to say that the market has just not been good. Like it's been brutal. And like I said in the other video, almost everyone I look to is like struggling right now. So I try not to, be too critical of myself when I can see that like no one else is succeeding. It's like you don't want to make excuses, but at a certain point, like you take what the market gives you, and sometimes for months you're not really given much. So those are some good lessons, I would say. I mean, to summarize: mentor, um, trade journal, absolute must-haves, a worthwhile strategy. Good luck finding one. Good luck knowing when you found one, but you do need it. It's going to take way more time than you realize. It's much more cyclical than you realize. I think trading, to add to that last point of the cyclicality of it, I think when you first start out, to find consistency, you kind of have to treat it full time, or like you have to commit as much time to it as you can, and it needs to be as close to full time as possible, if not over. Um, but once you've found success or consistency, you can kind of ease off that, and like you could, you know, be a successful part time trader, and it could be well worth the time, the part time that you're putting into it. But if you're just starting out with the idea that you're going to do it on the side, like part time for a couple hours a day to make some extra income, I probably wouldn't even, I, I wouldn't even recommend that, because it takes, I mean, like I was saying earlier, like it takes a delusional level of like commitment and so much time that, like, if you try to spread that over a couple hours a day every day, like, it just, you're probably talking like years, unless you have a mentor that's really involved, or like, like, that you can, what do you call it, like mirror, like if you're physically next to them while they're trading or something like that, then maybe you can make an exception. But for the average person, if you're going into it with the mindset of being a part-time trader, I would just chalk it from the beginning. But that's my trading experience for you. I'm glad you asked. I don't know. I like talking about trading and stuff because I am passionate about it, and I do think, I've accomplished a lot, as much as it might not seem like it. And on a go forward basis, I think I have the potential to do really well, um, just depending on market conditions. And so I look forward to some of the future opportunities that I think I might be able to capitalize on. I mean, I think options are something that I want to continue to get better at. There are, last year, for instance, Baidu is a good example of an options play that I think I should have, and going forward, will hopefully be, more prepared to take advantage of situations like that. Baidu is a Chinese stock, and I can't even remember. I think it was like below $100. I think it was like $80 or $90, and in a few weeks, it was like 150. And the options that you could have bought, short-term options at that time, I don't remember what they returned, but I think they were up like, I don't know, 30 times, 30 to 50x in a few weeks. And I so easily could have put $1,000 on that and made 30 to 50 grand. And it's just like stuff like that. Those opportunities don't come along often, but like, I mean, I just kick myself for not taking advantage of that. I just underestimated like the potential of that trade when I was looking at it, because I looked at it and I just didn't pull the trigger. But stuff like that, I think, going forward, I'm not going to hesitate to put risk on for stuff like that, where you can risk whatever you choose, and that, like, your max loss is whatever you bet, but your max reward is like 10, 20, 30x. Options are insane, and that's a whole nother story. But stuff like that, and just the fact that I'm to a point where, like, in a decent market, I can make a few $1,000s a month. I'm not doing that now, but you know, the fact that that's possible, and I have done it in any, like, certain months, I have made a few $1,000s. That's what gives me hope as a part-time trader, and I've learned a lot for sure, and I've been on a whole investing journey as well alongside my trading journey, and I've learned just as much from that as well. So I don't think it's been a complete waste, but yeah, I mean, I'm 25, and I don't know. I probably could have spent my time doing something else, and I probably would have been better off, to be honest. So trading isn't everything that it seems, especially not, it's not what the gurus make it up to be. Um, but no one wants to hear that, really. So I don't expect, you know, much positive response to the things that I'm saying, but it's just the truth. But that's my story, and that's the money I've made, um, and things I've learned. I'm sure there's other stuff that I'll think of after this, when I'm done with this. But I don't know. I think those are some really good, like, um, foundational things that I wish that I had understood better starting out. And yeah, I don't know. In hindsight, I don't regret the time that I've put into it, because I do, like I said, feel like it could be worthwhile over the coming, years. But it's just not easy. That's the takeaway. It's not easy. It takes a lot of time, and you really got to love it. You got to be dedicated, because if you're not, you won't make it. So that's my advice, and that's my experience. And this was probably kind of all over the place, and I apologize for that. But that's just when if I start talking about something I'm passionate about, that's inevitably going to happen. So my apologies, but it is what it is, I guess. I've been talking so much, I'm starting to lose my voice. So I'm going to wrap this up, but hopefully this was useful for somebody. If you've already started, maybe now you give your mentor and your journal, your strategy, the thought that you should be giving it. Um, if you haven't started, I would say probably just don't. No, that's sad. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for tuning in. If you're a trader, I wish you the best. How are you doing? How are you doing in the markets right now if you're a trader? And if you're doing well, what are you doing? Because I need to know. And that's it for me. So that's my experience. Thanks for watching.